So we know now, not only is it the Parsha, but we also have now, we learn Pirkei Avot. One of the reasons why we learn Pirkei Avot now is because now is going to be spring. During the spring, what happens? It starts to get nice outside, the weather starts to get good, the sun starts to come out, people like to start hanging out, going around, and people start to become all over the place. And what happens then? You see things everywhere. It's a time where people want to get out and go everywhere. So we learn Pirkei Avot during this time to sort of tell us, have a good time but keep in shape. You have to know your confinements, rules, regulations, whatever it's called, right? Enjoy yourself, amen, but it has to be b'derech mutar. It has to be in a way that's mutar. You're allowed to enjoy this world, but it has to be b'derech mutar, in a way that's mutar, not in a way that's asur. There's something very interesting. If you look in Pirkei Avot, I saw this brought down by Rav Avram Twersky. He has a sefer on Pirkei Avot. I saw in his Agdama, in his introduction, he says something very interesting. It says, Moshe kibel Torah miSinai. Moshe received the Torah from Sinai, which means he received it from Hashem. Umsara Yoshua, and he gave it over to Yeshua. And then Yeshua gave it to the elders, and that's how the transmission from the elders to the Nevi'im. From the Nevi'im, they gave it to Anshe Knesset Gedola. Speaks about the shalshelet of how we got the Torah from generation to generation, how the Torah is passed down from Hashem to Moshe and so on. But he brings something very interesting. We know that we got the Torah from Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu got the Torah from Hashem. The question is, why do the ethics, which Pirkei Avot is ethics, musar, conduct, how you're supposed to behave, what you're supposed to do, what you're not supposed to do, how you're supposed to speak, and so on. It's all ethics and morals. The question is, why does the ethics and morals of Pirkei Avot also have to be min hashamayim? Meaning to say, why do we start off Pirkei Avot with Moshe kibel Torah miSinai? You know why? Because not only did the halachot of the Gemara, what happened?
I was saying, can I answer the question or for the video?
Well, I'll answer it. Okay. Right? Because even Pirkei Avot, morals and ethics are also divine. And they have to be divine. The question is, why do they have to be divine? Why do morals and ethics have to be divine? Morals and ethics, a lot of times, common sense. Right? It's common sense, a lot of morals and ethics. And he brings that down over here. He says, there are many things that we do that the Torah needs to tell us. Matzah. Would you ever think of the halacha of matzah? If you eat matzah on Pesach, you eat chametz on Pesach, chayav karet. It's like eating on Yom Kippur, or breaking Shabbat on purpose, or different sins alike, right? Persons, with his wife, he shouldn't go to the mikvah. Like all these things all have karet. It's the spiritual cutting off of the soul. The question is, if the Torah wouldn't tell us this mitzvah, matzah, shofar, sukkah, you think people would think of this mitzvah? Human logic would think of this mitzvah? Who's going to think of this mitzvah? You're living at a time where people are doing whatever they want, whenever they want, however they want. Not only so, you want to make a religion with rules. So you have tzitzit. Who's going to think of tzitzit? Who's going to think of tefillin? Who would in the world think of writing tefillin or doing tzitzit or anything else? Very strange, right? So those are mitzvot, but ethical behavior, people can figure out ethical behavior on their own. Why people don't know that you're not allowed to kill? It's normal. Why does Torah tell you you're not allowed to kill? It's common sense you're not allowed to kill. But you're not allowed to steal, you're not allowed to lie. These are things that are normal. People know that these things are wrong. People know that these things are unethical. Why do these things have to be divine? Why do these things have to be godly given? He said these things are good judgment, to honor your parents, to help the poor. So many things. Not only that, the Torah itself tells us that if we wouldn't have these lessons from the Torah, we would have to learn how to behave from nature. Doves, cats, ants, right? Some are modest, some are clean, some are caring, right? Animals, you can learn from animals what's good and what's bad also in a way. But he brings something very fascinating. He says if you look at recent social changes, several decades ago, he says, terminating a non-threatening life pregnancy was considered a crime and it was considered murder. I need to say, the question is, why do ethics and morals have to be given from God? Why can't they just be decided by people? He's telling you because ethics and morals, if you're going to leave them to people, you know what's going to happen? He says if you look earlier on, if somebody wanted to get an abortion, it was considered murder. It would be considered a crime of murder, considered like you killed somebody. You'd have to go to jail for it like murder. It says nowadays, Not only is it not murder, not only is it permitted, they will even help you pay for it. You want to do it, no problem, help you pay for it. How did, in a span of 80 years, whatever the amount of years that it is, how did we go from putting somebody in jail for murder, for that same exact act, it's okay, we'll help you pay for it? How did that change? It's a very big change. From murder to we'll help you pay for it, right? And then he says, the idea of physician-assisted suicide. You'll find in his book, he'll always bring these type of things because he was a doctor and he dealt with people that were alcoholics and so on and so forth. So he's...
This is Rabbi Tversky, which book is it?
The one that, Pirkei Avot.
Okay.
He has one on tefillah that's also very good. It's very good, very good tefillah one. He says, there is such an idea of physician-assisted suicide, which is nobody even... He says nowadays, certain places, it's even mutar, it's even permitted, it's legal. In certain states in America, it's permitted. If people are going through a certain amount of pain, they go to a physician, he helps them take their life. Back in the day, these things were even like, to do such a thing. He says if you look, before medical science, before drugs, before everything that we have today, medical procedures, and back in the day, he says people's life was very short. He says in the early 1900s, a lot of people used to die very young. Average lifespan was 40 years. Did you know that? The average lifespan.
Early 1900s?
That part he didn't say, but he did say in the early 1900s, a lot of people used to die from something called tuberculosis. And hundreds of thousands of people used to die yearly from tuberculosis. And he says in the earlier decades, he says, of this century. Sounds like it's the early 1900s. Right? He says that the average lifespan is 40 years. Check it out.
No, that's 19th century.
He says,
It depends on the stats, but that sounds incorrect.
let's
For
see.
the 1900s, that's incorrect. 1800s, that would be true.
1800s.
1800s.
So maybe it means 1800s.
Maybe 19th century.
He says in the early decades of this century.
1900s,
Oh, so he wrote this in the 1900s, maybe.
Maybe he wrote this in
47 to 49 years.
Here, he just said early 1900s.
In the United
In 1900s, 47 to 49.
18,
He's right.
no, 18,
What?
1875.
Well, I don't know, whatever. It's right. In the
There's a
early
chart here.
1900s.
It just keep, from 1900s, it goes all the way up to 2020s. Now it's 80. So,
Right, but you see in the early 1900s, people died in their 40s. That was the norm.
Yeah, they invented penicillin, which is it's double antibiotic against tuberculosis.
So what happens is that many people used to die from tuberculosis, and the community needed people. The world needed people because people would die young. And therefore, terminating a pregnancy was a crime against society because you're depriving the community of something very, very vital commodity, which is people. And therefore, they went along, they said, oh, it's a crime. If you're going to kill them, you're going to go to jail forever. You know, you're going to... The idea of killing a baby inside of a stomach was mamash murder. Why? Because they needed people. People were a commodity.
Selfishly, keep them alive.
Exactly.
Now it's the other way around.
Says today things have changed. He says the average lifespan today is 80 years old, like you just said. Infant mortality is very rare. Many childhood diseases are gone because of immunization. There's not even a single tuberculosis hospital in the whole country.
And the argument is the opposite now. They say we have overpopulation.
Too many people.
Too many people.
I remember
So,
during
take care of
COVID.
it.
I remember during COVID, everybody was going crazy. That guy was trying to kill everybody. What's his name?
Yeah,
The
Fauci.
Microsoft guy. What's his name?
Bill Gates.
Bill Gates. Yeah, with Fauci and Bill Gates and all these clever. They're saying everyone is going around with all these conspiracies. They're trying to kill everybody. Taking the vaccine in 3 days, you're gonna have a heart attack, and everybody was going crazy. And I remember that everybody was going nuts during COVID. It was a crazy time.
Found a new way, lab meat.
Lab
It's a
meat.
new way.
Lab-grown meat.
Yeah.
That's
These
what it could be.
But it came off.
producing lab
It came
meat.
off. It came off. It's happening.
There's a bunch of places producing it already.
You know, did you know that Rav Usher Weiss had a whole tshuva, he had a whole discussion with the OU on lab-grown meat.
I'm so interested to hear that.
Does it need to be kosher or not?
Or is it parv?
Is it parv? Is it kosher? Does it need to be kosher?
Yeah.
So he held that since it's made out of a cell from an animal, so it comes out to be the source of it really comes from an animal, so the animal has to be kosher. And not only does the animal have to kosher, it's not considered parv, it's considered meat.
Okay, so then how are you going to explain the cow makes milk and the milk is dairy?
The Torah tells you it's dairy. Just like the Torah tells you bees are.
What does the Torah tell us
Just
about
like,
this?
just like the Torah doesn't say anything about that.
No, it does, but we just don't know how.
Oh, so he knows how.
Yeah,
I
he
don't
knows
know.
how,
What about plant-based meat?
He one time said no, plant-based meat is not. It's parv.
Yeah.
The Rav Asher Weiss, that's parv, and it's all you parv.
So you can go to a non-kosher, whatever, like you can eat non-kosher plant-based meat. It's not meat technically.
No, because there could be other ingredients in there that are sensitive to
that's true.
kashrut, right? The kashrut world today is not so simple. It's not ABC. They took a plant, they crushed it up, and they gave it to you. There's 50 ingredients in there. You don't know what's in there. Right? Any item that you buy today has tons of ingredients in there. We have no idea where all this stuff comes from. 9. It says, television today and newspapers constantly tell us about the Medicare and Medicaid, and so many people are getting old, and Social Security, and young people that are getting older one day won't even have Social Security, and the cost of living so older people are so expensive, and older people are basically sucking out a lot of the money from you and American taxpayers. Right? So it says today's society is not in need of people, therefore it can afford to terminate healthy pregnancy. There's too many people anyways. This is irrelevant to us, this individual, whether it's alive or not. Right? It might not be a pleasant thought, he says, but society, right, is hardly upset about legitimizing, terminating the lives of elderly people as well when it comes to their treatment, when it costs a lot of money. They want that because they don't want to keep spending so much money on keeping people on machines. It's just sucking out the government of money. It's irrelevant. We need them, right? So people are not a commodity so much. I'll tell you the other way around. I used to live with a doctor. He used to be a doctor in a nursing home. He once told me nursing homes are not places where you want to keep people for a long time. Put it that way in nice words. He said, as a protocol in a nursing home, they're told never to call the doctor or the patient until that patient is like borderline, because the nursing homes want to keep the patient there. They don't want to send them to the hospital. They goes to the hospital, the nursing home makes a lot of money on them every day. So like, you're only gonna call the doctor if the patient's like really bad, right? I remember one time we were learning, we walked out of the shul, he got a phone call, and he's going like back and forth with the nurse. I was like, what happened? He said this crazy nurse, she gave the patient the wrong medicine, he could die from this medicine, so he had to give her another medicine to counteract it. Like to that point, like he says, they don't call before because they don't want to call doctor by protocol. It's like, that's what it is. The Gemara says if the Torah would not be given, we would learn from animals of how to live, but we could have also learned from the wrong animals as well. He says, if you have moral ethics and social needs, those things will always be changed. But when you have morals and ethics that are given to you by God divine, it will never be changed. You can never change anything that's divine. Whatever God said then is now, and will be then as well. It will never change. If I'm going to leave morals to you, everybody thinks something else is moral, right? Today you will think this is a mitzvah, tomorrow you'll think this is avilah, tomorrow you'll think this is avilah, tomorrow you'll think this is mitzvah. It'll all be based on your wants and needs and what you think is right and wrong, and the bigger calculation of things, not necessarily will that really be right and wrong. Not only that, he brings over here a fascinating Gemara. I'm going to read to you a fascinating Gemara. The Gemara here says, Kikayati Rebbe v'kadarish, your Rebbe was giving a drasha, v'areach reach shum. There was a bad smell of garlic in the room. You know how people sometimes smell like bad garlic when they were working in the kitchen with a lot of garlic? It's like a horrible smell of garlic. So Rebbe said, Omar Misha chal shum yatzeh. Rebbe said, whoever ate garlic, please walk out of the room. It was really interfering and bothering, and it was bothering, I'm assuming not only him, but other people as well. Omar Rav Chia got up, v'yatzah, and he left. And Rav Chia was a big person, right? Rav Chia was Gadol Hador, right? So Rav Chia Banav, they were so great, they could have brought Mashiach, that's how great they were. Amdu Kulan, they all got up, v'yatzu. The whole shir got up and went after him. Imagine Rabbi sitting down with 300 people, he says, whoever ate garlic, please stand up and get out of the room. I don't know if he was the same words, right? The biggest rabbi got up, he left, everybody saw he got up, he left, everybody went after him. A minute later, the whole room's empty. That's what happened. Imagine that. Now, it sounds like a nice thing, right? He doesn't want to embarrass him. But who says that's the right thing to do? Maybe that was not the right thing to do. Maybe the person should have just got up and left. Okay, he ate garlic. If the rabbi doesn't like it, he gets up and leaves, life moves on. Vashachar, in the morning, Rabbi Shimon, which is the son of Rabbi, who gave a shir yesterday, asked Rabbi Chia, are you the one that gave my father tsar yesterday? You're the one who caused the whole shir to empty out? Amar lo, he said, such a thing will never happen in Klal Yisrael. What is he telling him? To embarrass a Jew in public? He says, even if you're going to mevatel the whole entire shiur of 300 people, mevatel the whole shiur, but you don't embarrass somebody in public. That's what he told him. Such a thing you're not going to do. Rabbi Chia, so the Gemara asks, how did Rabbi Chia know this is the right thing? Rabbi Chia, this is a big calculation. Rabbi Chia knew he's going to get up, he's going to walk out of the shiur, everybody's going to leave, he's going to mevatel hundreds of people from learning Torah. Bitul Torah keneged kulam. Just like Talmud Torah keneged kulam, just like the mitzvah of learning Torah is equivalent to all the mitzvot in Torah, Bitul Torah is also equivalent to all the avirot in the Torah.
Really?
Correct.
Never heard that before.
The Gra says that in Mishlei. Right? Zelu mazeh elokim. Right? But Bitul Torah has its gedarim. Talmud Torah has its gedarim. Right? If a person's at work and he's working to support his family, it's not considered Bitul Torah, it's tzarech parnasa. You have to know the gedarim of Bitul Torah, but it is keneged kulam as well.
So if you're learning Torah right now, and I just interrupt you and ask you a random question completely off topic, I'm doing all the sins in the whole world right now.
No, if it's related to the topic, if it's related to the growth.
Completely different, like how's the weather today or something like that.
Yeah, that would be
I'm
considered
doing all the
Bitul
sins
Torah
of the
the
world.
Rabbim.
Eating pig, all that stuff.
It's equivalent to all the sins. I don't know if it's considered like you did every sin, it's equivalent. To what extent? The Gra says to the extent of the Sitra Achra being Shora. Whatever, it's more complicated. It's a big affair, put it that way. Well, Shlomo Melech also says, right, Masiras no mishmot Torah gam tfilato teva. If you're in the middle of listening to Torah and you decide, I'm going to go listen to something else, and he goes and starts doing the Dvarim B'Teilim, Hashem says, you're not interested in listening to my Torah, I'm not interested in listening to your tefillah. It's a pasuk also. But again, all these things have to be balanced. These can't be extremes, right? Guy can't be in the shul 24 hours a day and scared to walk out, right? Also, everything has to be in proper balance. It has to be in a healthy balance. It means the person has to be respectful, not disgraceful, right? So the question is, how do Rabbi Chia know that he's allowed to mevatel the whole entire shira of hundreds of people, but not to embarrass a Jew in public, right? Because the Gemara says, if you embarrass somebody in public, it's one of the people that go to Gehinam and don't come out. There are 3 people that go to Gehinam and don't come out. One of them is somebody that sleeps with a married lady. One of them that embarrassed somebody in public. The third person that somebody gives somebody a nickname, and the people start calling him by this nickname, or he calls him by this klitschka,
Not a good one. Not a good one.
So that's a debate, but yeah, not a good nickname, right?
The thing that always confused me about this story, though, is the rabbi who was giving the shir didn't call out an individual.
He didn't call out an individual, no.
So it's not embarrassing one particular person.
He said whoever did it.
Whoever did it.
Yeah, but
maybe a few people did it.
Yeah, but if 1 or 2 people would get up, they would feel embarrassed that he told them to get up in public. The people would look at them like.
But it also says in here that it was well known that he didn't like this.
Yeah, it bothered him. Yeah.
So this person, obviously.
So you're right. This is the calculation that we have to think of. What was wrong? How did he know that he's allowed to do this? Maybe he should have not done that.
Right.
It didn't say, it's common sense, or he didn't say that. You know what it says? Gamir Lami Rav Meir. He learned from Rav Meir. He learned from Rav Meir that this was the right thing to do. What did Rav Meir do? There was one lady, she came to the Bet Midrash, to the yeshiva of Rav Meir, and she told him, one of your students married me through Bia, right? And I got married me through Bia, and he disappeared on me. I don't know who he is, right? I don't know who he is. That means that there's 3 ways you can marry a girl in the Torah. One, you give her money. Right, you give her star, and the other one is biyah. Relations have to be doing l'shem kiddushin, but today we don't do. We don't marry a girl through relationship. You don't say hariyat mikudeshli and have 2 witnesses outside, and you go and have relationships with her as a form of kiddushin. But once upon a time, that was norm, because it's immodest. It's a little bit of a degrading thing to do. And back in the day, we went to a time when it was a norm in society, but today we don't do it. Right. So what happens is he did it, and he disappeared on her the next day. Now she's married. She doesn't know who she married. Right. The guy went to learn yeshiva, right? I don't know, he went to do tshuva, I don't know what he did, right? And so what happens is, the question is, Rav Meir got up, he wrote a get, and he gave it to her as if he did it. The whole yeshiva got up, they wrote a get, the whole yeshiva wrote her a get. Wow. Why? Imagine if one guy would get up. Or Meir would tell him, you did it? Get out of my yeshiva. What are you doing here? Rasha, go and, right? You want to embarrass him in public. So Rav Meir didn't want to embarrass him, even though he did something horrible. Rav Meir didn't want to embarrass him. Rav Meir got up, he wrote the get himself. And everybody did it, and now she's Megadeshet, but nobody knows who it was.
But that's a pasul get?
It's not supposed to get, because at the end of the day, she got a get that's kosher from the individual that actually did it.
So the rabbi didn't actually write a get.
He did. No, he wrote a whole get, but it's invalid.
It's not valid. Yeah.
If I get up and I read a get to a random lady outside, is it a get?
No.
It's nothing, right? But it doesn't do anything. But he did it in order to save him that he shouldn't get embarrassed.
Wow, that's
Right?
Interesting. Why don't they do it nowadays?
What?
Like that.
Like what?
Some guys don't want to give get to ladies.
Yeah, and then what? That's not gonna help. The guy who the guy who actually married her also gave her a get.
Ah.
But the difference is nobody knows who that was. Out of all the, of course he knows. Out of all the 50 people that gave it to her, the guy who actually did it knows.
Ah, okay. I see.
Right? It's not that 50 people helps instead of the real guy. That doesn't help. No.
Bitul shishim.
Right? Bitul b'shishim.
what is it called? Beer through 50 people platform.
No, that's not what happened. Right? Rav Meir Meicha Gamrila. Where did Rav Meir learn? Where did Rav Meir learn that this was the right thing to do? Mishmuel HaKatan. He got it from Shmuel HaKatan. Shmuel HaKatan, this is the story that the Gemara said earlier on. Shmuel HaKatan was invited. There was a whole bunch of Chachamim that were invited to the attic to Mekadesh the Chodesh, to do Kiddush HaChodesh. So when they went up to do the Kiddush HaChodesh, so one of the people that weren't invited. So the Chacham said, you need 7 people to make Kiddush HaChodesh. He said, whoever was not invited, please leave. Shmuel HaKatan got up and said, I wasn't invited.
Oh, wow.
And it wasn't really him. But he didn't want the real guy to be embarrassed. He could take it. It doesn't bother him. Right? And the Gemara says, Shmuel HaKatan, he was zochet to have the Shekhinah dwell on him like Moshe Rabbeinu, but his generation was not zochet. Because every Chacham is zochet to the greatness in accordance to according to the level of generation. Right? If the generation is on a high level, the Chachamim will be on a much higher level. If the generation on a lower level, the Chachamim will be on a naturally lower level. Not to say they're on a low level, but they're on a low level in comparison to the higher levels of maybe generations of people that are higher. Right?
They're on the level that meets the generation. So
Correct.
they can relate to the
So
people.
they can relate to the people, correct. That's what it says about Avram Avinu. Avram Avinu, right? His father and his mother conceived when she was an Ida. Right? So Avram Avinu was very bothered by that. Right? But the pasuk calls Avram Avinu Kadosh Mirechem. The pasuk says Avram Avinu is Kadosh Mirechem. The question is, how could it be Kadosh Mirechem? He was born Ben Nida. He's holy from birth, right? And he was, how could it be, right? I'll tell you in quick. It's really a long dashra. Shimshon Pincus says, you know why? Because of what you just said. If he would have been born, imagine, right? If a guy is born and raised in Williamsburg, he's gonna come here and speak to the Bahrain community here about serving Hashem. You don't understand our lifestyle. You don't understand how we grew up. You don't understand our mentalities. You don't understand our Balei Tshuva. There's only so much that we can relate to because we don't understand where you're coming from. You don't understand where we're coming from. Right? The Gemara says, right, Hillel is going to be Mochiach Da'aniyim and Rav Elazar ben Hukun is going to be Mochiach Da'ashirim. So you see the Gemara says there clearly, after 120, each person to where he is in life, those are the people that are going to compare him to and put him in place. Why? Because you need that relate. You need people to relate. So Hashem told him, the reason why you were born a Ben Nida and the reason why you had to do Avodah Zarah the first many years of your life, whatever the machlokot are in the Gemara, right, is because you needed to be able to relate to all the people that are going to be close to Hashem. You need to come to the people and teach them not to do Avodah Zarah. They're going to say, you don't know what it is. You ever did Avodah Zarah? My father was the manufacturer. I grew up in the greatest house of Avodah Zarah. He was the Avodah Zarah. And even so, I'm telling you it's not true. So he needed that in order to bring people close to God. So Hashem told him, since the only reason why you had to go through that is to bring people close to Hashem, so since that was a part of your tafkid, you're still considered Kadosh Mirechem. Whatever, Rav Shimon gives a whole Josh on it, but just in short, right? Rav Meir learned from Shmuel HaKatan. Shmuel HaKatan, where did he learn it from? From Shechenya ben Yechiel. D'chtiv v'yan Shechenya ben Yechiel b'bnei Elam v'yom el-Ezran nachnu ma'alnu be'Eloheinu v'nashanu Hashem luchniyot me'aretz. It says, when Shechenya ben Yechiel when they were on Galus, a lot of the Jews, they intermingled with non-Jewish ladies. And Shechania didn't do it. He was one of the righteous people. But when he came to Ezra, he says, yes, we did the sin, we did it, we want to do tshuva. Why did he put himself a part of the crowd? He didn't do it. Why? He didn't want to sort of single out the people that did it, make people bad. He doesn't want to degrade other people, right? V'ata yesh mikvah l'Yisrael azot. V'shechenia, where did he know? From Yeshua. As Yeshua said, "V'yomer Hashem and Yeshua kum lech lama zeh ata nofel al panecha chata Yisrael." Right. So what happens is Yeshua, Hashem told Yeshua, right? Why are you over here sitting and praying? The Jewish people sinned. Hashem said the Jewish people sinned. Hashem didn't single anybody out. Hashem didn't single anybody out. Right. So Yeshua told Hashem, right? Mi chata, who sinned? Who did it? What did Hashem tell him? Mechil dil Torani? What, do I look like a Baal Lashon Hara to you? I'm going to tell you who did it. I'm not going to tell you who did it. That's what Hashem told him. Right? He said, you make a goral, you go figure it out yourself. Right?
How's the goral?
Make a raffle and go figure it out yourself. So you see that something very fascinating from this Gemara. How do we know that you're not allowed to single people out, or you have to put yourself a part of the kalal and you're not allowed to embarrass somebody publicly, even if it's going to cause Bittul Torah of hundreds of people from the Bet Midrash? Halakha Moshe Misinai. Why? Because to leave things to our own logic, to leave things to our own morale, like we said before, a subject. But when we have something that's morally right from Halakha Moshe Sinai, that will be morally right forever. You can never say, no, my instance was different. I was allowed to embarrass in public. No, you're not allowed to embarrass in public. Why? This is laws and morals of ethics of Judaism are there forever to stay forever. And they will never change. And they will never change. So, it says in the parasha something very fascinating. It says the Midrash writes, there was a rochel. A rochel is somebody that sells colognes, perfumes, all this random stuff. So rochels weren't generally held of as people that were, because they used to work with women a lot. They used to be around selling perfumes. And what did he do? He used to go around from city, from town to town, and he used to say, who wants to buy Sam Chaim? How could I say Sam Chaim? Medicine of life. Who wants to buy the medicine of life? Everybody's curious to say, what is he talking about? Medicine of life, medicine of life? What does that mean? Right? Rav Yana was sitting and learning in his traklin, in his palace. People read traklin in Chazal. Palace, right? It says palace. If you look at the Gemara Baba Batra, the Gemara Baba Batra says a definition of traklin in Chazal is 8 amot al 8 amot, which means 16 feet by 16 feet. That was considered.
It's like a queen's mansion, It's 3 bedrooms and it's a queen's mansion.
Yeah. Right. So what did he say, man? He said, "Come here. Tell me, what are you selling? What are you talking about?" Right. He says, "No, Rabbi, you don't need it. It's not for you." The Rabbi told him, "No, tell me what you're talking about." So what happens? He opened up a sefer of Tehillim and he told him, "Look, mi ha'esh chavetz chaim." Right. David HaMelech says, "Who is the man who wants life? Watch your mouth from speaking evil. Sur mira, leave evil, and ba'aseh tov, and do good." Right? Rav Yana told him, my whole life I read this pasuk, I never understood it. Right? Until this Rachel came and he told it to me. But the question is, what do you mean? Your whole life you read the pasuk and you never understood it? You're talking about the Gidolim over here, reading a pasuk, you don't understand what it says. It says what it says. I read it, I understand what it says. You don't know what it says? Imagine, I ask you, you have a staircase in your house? Going from the first floor to the second floor? Even better. You know the staircase over here? How many stairs are on the staircase? Every
10.
day you come here.
10.
You know for sure it's 10?
14.
I wouldn't bet on
More
it.
than
Huh? How many? You walk on the stairs every day.
I'd say 10.
second
floor?
Yeah. Here, how many stairs do you have here? No, I want a number. Do you know? No, you don't
I'll be
know.
upset if you don't know.
26.
Yeah, I think 14 is a good number.
14.
Definitely more than 10.
Too high. It's like 14.
So you're all guessing. You take the steps every day, but nobody
I say
knows.
10. I say 10.
Automatic.
Why? Because there are certain things that you see and do all the time, you don't pay attention. I'm going to tell you, there was a college, right? There was a college, and they gave a test, I think for nursing, or for a doctor. I think it was for nursing. The professor gave him a test, and the professor told him on the test, I heard this from my second grade principal. The professor told him on the test, there's going to be one question on this test, half your test depends on this question.
8.
What's the question? He said, what is the name of the janitor? Nobody knew. He said, this guy cleans after you every single day. Every single day this guy cleans after you, and you didn't even notice him, and you want to go to the hospital and care for people? There's a strong logic to that. That's 50% of being a nurse. Caring, right? There are people who sometimes, God forbid, to end up in a hospital. Everybody knows what it is. It's like everybody has an ice pack in their heart, right? Nobody cares about anything, right? Right?
Can you please repeat the Chafetz Chaim thing again? What is it?
Which part?
We'll
We'll get there.
It's in Hebrew and in English. I want to know.
And who wants life? Mi Chafetz Chaim. Who wants life? Guard your mouth from evil and do good. Not only that, the Mefarshim here ask a question. He says, what was Rana so shocked about? One answer is what we just said earlier on. He says, the Chida writes, Man bae sam chaim. He said, who wants the medicine of life? He didn't say who wants life. Which means that he wasn't talking about life in Olam Haba. He says, life in Olam Haba, you need Torah, you need Masim Tovim. He said, who wants life, right? לזכות לסתם המעמיד החיים מנצחים כשם שיש בתבואה ושאר החולים דברים מעמידים אותם שרקבו לצריכו כן יש שם. He says, he's talking about who wants the life, the potion of Olam Haba, which means something that's going to preserve your Olam Haba. Watching your mouth, Olam Haba, you need Torah, you need mitzvot, whatever else you might need. But to preserve it, you need to watch your mouth. Why? Because if you don't watch your mouth, you can lose a lot of it, even more of it, probably all of it, right? You know, Torah and Maasim Tovim, not everybody is zocheh to two tables. You know, a lot of times people ask, you know, sometimes you see, the Gemara says something interesting. The Gemara says, Lo kol echad zocheh leshtei shulchanot. Not everybody is zocheh to two worlds. Not everybody is zocheh to olam hazeh, olam haba. The Gemara says, Shlosha devarim niknet b'yisurim. 3 things are acquired through suffering. 1, Torah. You want to learn Torah? You want to acquire to be a Talmid Chacham? Suffering is a must. Why? No, that's that's easier. Right? Why? Because when you want to be zocheh to something like Olam Haba, for that there has to be some pushback.
What's the Hebrew word for suffering?
Yisurim.
Yisurim.
Yisurim, correct. Right? So it says 3 things a person needs. 1, Olam Haba, 1, Torah, and 1, Eretz Israel, 1 to live in Israel. So the one in Israel we see, right, what's happening over there, it's very hard to live there. All the Arabs and everything else over there. Right?
Why was learning Torah suffering then?
Not learning Torah is not suffering. A person that wants to acquire Torah comes through Yisurim. Acquire Torah, you ever try to sit and learn 12 hours a day?
Yeah.
How did it go?
I acquired what I acquired.
I do it again,
Wasn't so much,
and
but I
again,
acquired what I
and
acquired.
again, and again, and again. Once
That's
a
not what it
person,
says. Doesn't
that's
say
no. Shoshad v'ni niknet b'yisurim is Torah. Torah doesn't mean that I learn a daf of Gemara. It means a person wants to acquire Torah. A person wants to be a Talmid Chacham. In order to get to that stage, b'muchrach Hashem is going to give
Acquire
it.
all of Torah.
Yeah, that's what it means. It doesn't mean like any daf suddenly. Right, but if it means you want to acquire Torah, you want to be a Talmid Chacham, it automatically comes with a lot of complications and difficulties. It's a part of the system. Why? There has to be pushback to see if how loyal you are, and there's nisyonot, and there's growth. Besides the fact that when you're immersing in Torah, the amount of Kiddush the neshama starts to radiate, the Yetzer Hara starts to go berserk. Right? The Yetzer Hara starts to go crazy. That's one of the main reasons why. Right? So the Gemara says, not everybody is zocheh to this world and to the next world. Some people are zocheh to this world, some people are zocheh to the next world, some people are zocheh to both.
What does that mean?
What does that mean?
This world.
Zocheh means to say that a person
Easy,
want
good life.
easy good life, correct. Right? Life will be complicated, difficult, have many complications. Right? To have Torah, now it depends. Not everybody. Some yes, some no. The Gra says something very interesting. I want to point out a very interesting Vilna Gaon. The Vilna Gaon says, Ben Adam Lamakom, serving God, your relationship with God, is zocheh to olam haba. Ben Adam lechavero, is zocheh to olam hazeh. You want to have bracha in this world, you have to be good ben Adam lechavero. You have to be good to people. You have to be good to people. Physically, spiritually, you have to be good to people. That's ochel mepiroteim ba'olam hazeh. The Gra writes. And not only that, the Gra says, there are people that HaKadosh Baruch Hu pays them the reward in this world and they have no olam haba. He says, who are those people? You know who they are? People that by nature are very good people and they don't serve Hashem. Why? He says, imagine a person has a good nature, he's a good person, he's a good-hearted person, he's a sweet person, he's a kind person, he's a nice person. Sometimes we look at somebody like that and say, okay, so he's not religious. Hashem's for sure going to give him the best olam haba. He's such a nice person, he's a good person, he's an honest person, right? But the Vilna Gaon says a person like that it's easy for him, he has a good nature, and he has a good teva benafsho. The fact that it was so easy for him to be righteous and serve Hashem and he didn't, such a person Hashem gives it to him good in this world, and he has no olam haba, the Vilna Gaon says. But the Gra says something the other way around. So Gra says if a person has a difficult nature, he struggles with arrogance, he struggles with anger, he struggles with a difficult personality, doing things the right way is hard for him, he's a struggler by nature, he says, him HaKadosh Baruch Hu is nifni mishurat hadin. Him HaKadosh Baruch Hu eases the judgment on him and treats him very differently because Hashem sees it's hard for him. Right? So it's vice versa of what we would imagine. We would think generally the other way around. Right? But if you want to preserve that olam haba, you need to watch your mouth. That's what Rabbi Yanai was shocked about. Rabbi Yanai was shocked about, I never realized this in a pasuk. He didn't say, Mi'esh chafetz chaim. He says, Sama chaim you want. Do you want the medicine of life? Sam is something that preserves, is something that heals, that makes what's there good. So he's saying, you want to preserve your olam haba, you need to watch your mouth. And that's what Yanai was shocked about, the Chida writes. What do you want to ask?
What's worse, Gehinom or Karet?
I don't know if one thing has to do with the other. What do you mean Gehinom or Karet? Gehinam is, so let me explain to you. This
You want to be in the game or you don't want to...
This is the big topic. We need to say Karet, if a person gets for certain sins. Gehinam, everybody has to go through on one level or another, for a moment, for a minute, for an hour, for a day, 12 hours max. Before Gehinam, a person could go through Gilgulim or go through Kafakel. A person before Gehinam could suffer for 1,000 years, Chas v'shalom, Right? Gehinam is like the last step for the cleansing process before you go to Gan Eden. It's a lengthy process. Not person dies, he goes to hell, it's like a hot mikveh, he comes out, and now he's going to Gan Eden with all his grandparents. It doesn't work like that. Right? It's a very complex process, and the Rambam says, only HaKadosh Baruch Hu could judge a person. Nobody in the world could judge a person. Nobody could come and say, this guy has this amount or this amount. Only Hashem knows everything's erechin. In Torah, everything is erechin. I say erechin in English. Everything is in relations. We need to say, just real quick, I don't want to get off topic, the Mabit says that why in the previous generations when people did Avirot, even small Avirot, like in the Dor HaMidbar, they rebelled against Hashem, so Hashem wanted to kill all of them. Was it that bad of a sin? So they complained. Let them complain. He says, we know why? Because their recognition of Hashem was so clear, their recognition of Hashem was so strong, that any minute sin was considered to the highest of all levels. He says, nowadays we're so far from Hashem, we don't have Gilu Shechina, we don't have miracles, we're so far from the recognition of God, for us to shuv is enough. Why? Because the erech of the sin, the severity of the sin will also depend on the level of the recognition of the individual. Not to diminish the sin, but how Hashem will judge you. For example, if I'm a rabbi, right, and I'm learning Torah all day, and I understand Hashem, right, to whatever level I understand Hashem, now I decide right now, I'm gonna, I don't know, let's say watch a movie, right? So for me, watching a movie, sitting down behind a TV screen for 2 hours would be a severe sin. Why? Because I just wasted 2 hours of my life and I could have done so much more. Hashem gave me all of His Torah to read, to enjoy, to be able to connect to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I could have made million mitzvot, and instead I decided to go and, a guy became religious last year and he's still in his transition process and he's growing, right? He doesn't have all these recognitions. If he sits down and watches a movie for 2 hours, assuming that the movie doesn't have znut and all these other things that are also to watch, right? I'm assuming it's not a promiscuous or improper movie to watch. And I'm just talking about wasting time, right? So such an individual, you think Hashem's going to say, I'm going to punish you for 2 hours and not learning? His level of understanding is not there. God doesn't expect that from somebody who became religious a year ago. You understand? Everything is depending on a level. Imagine I have a kid that's 5, right? And he walks and he takes my vase and he breaks it. and the vase is a $3,000 vase. He's 5 years old. What does he understand, right? Now imagine if I have a kid that's 16 and he knows that vase is a $10,000 vase, whatever it is, and he throws it like this and he breaks it. You would get very upset because he understands. So you see, your relationship with your children and your expectations of your children is also dependent on their understanding, depending on their level, depending where they are, right? It's the same thing between us and God, right? God is not going to hold me accountable for not learning Torah for 20 hours a day. I'm not on that level, right? Rav Chaim Kanievsky, if he learned 17 hours instead of 18 hours, Hashem will hold him accountable for 18 hours. Hashem won't hold me accountable for 18 hours. I'm not on that level, right?
What if you are on that level? How we're supposed to judge ourselves on our own, what level we're at?
You're supposed to have a Rav and you're supposed to constantly be growing. You can't say, I'm happy where I am. Shalom al Yisrael, I don't want to grow anymore. Then you'll be judged. Why? But if you're constantly growing and you're having a struggle and you're working on yourself and it's a working process, there's a certain sense that HaKadosh Baruch Hu sees the truth. It doesn't justify sin, right? I'm not talking about allowing sinning, but there's certain things that are in the borderline, in the gray areas, that there's a certain transition that's happening, there's a certain growth that's happening, right? Just going to tell you, there's so much to speak about, right? Let's see how we'll finish it off, right? So we'll finish it off. I'll tell you what it says over here. The Malach is the Magid Mesharim, the Beit Yosef. He was one of the ones that wrote the Shulchan Aruch. He used to learn with the Malach. He used to learn with an angel. An angel used to come with him and learn with him. Why? He was very holy. He was very righteous. A person has a body. A person has a soul. They write, Ramchal and others write, the more you feed your body, the more you use your soul to serve your body, the more your body gets stronger and your physicality gets stronger, the more it subdues your spirituality. The more you're constantly refining your soul and working on your spirituality and connecting to spirituality, right? The more your soul gets refined and the more your body gets diminished, right? And the more you're able to break out of the physical barriers that it puts over your soul into connecting to spiritual things, right? And it could be to a point of Ruach HaKodesh, it could be to a point of sensitivity, it could be a point to certain senses that people have, it could be to a point where a person can feel different times of holidays, of how the Kedushas transfer, it could be to a point where a person can have an angel in with him, it could be a point where a person reaches Nevuah. It really depends to what person to the degree that you're able to sanctify your soul and subdue your physicality. So the Maran Bet Yosef, he was tremendously humble. The Bet Yosef, the wrote the Shulchan Aruch, the Malach told him, the Shechina actually used to speak from his throat, from how holy he was. The Shechina spoke from his throat one time when he was standing in a chabur of people, because of how holy he was and how refined he was. That's something that's a hard thing for us to understand. But an angel, he's standing with him. There's 3 people in his generation that were supposed to write the Shulchan Aruch. I think it was Mari Ben Lev, I think it's the Rav Yosef Taichik, and I think it was the Rav Yosef Karo. Rav Yosef Taichik, 40 years, I think he didn't sleep on a bed, he slept on a board on the floor. And he learned Torah all day and all night. In Shemayim they said, you know why the Bet Yosef was Zocheh, merited to write the Shulchan Aruch that all of Klal Yisrael follows? He took basically all the complicated works of the Gemara and the Rambam and so on, and he made everything short for us to understand. Because it's very broad how to come to clear halacha, but that's a different discussion. He made everything. So you know why? It says because he was humble. The reason why he was Zocheh min Shemayim, that he should write the Shulchan Aruch, is because he was humble. Not necessarily that he was a bigger Talmid Chacham than Rav Yosef Taichik or Mari Ben Lev. He was a big Talmid Chacham, but it was because of his humility. Because of his humility, he was Zocheh to be the one to write the Shulchan Aruch. And not only that, he was Zocheh that the angel used to learn with him every day. And he wrote a whole sefer on what he learned from the angel. Fascinating sefer, right? And he told him, we're going to finish off with this. It says the Maran Bet Yosef had people going against him, and he didn't understand why people going against him. Right? Yeah, it's always like that. You always have haters, right? Everywhere.
People
right?
going against the angels.
No,
teaching?
people are going against the Bet Yosef, against the Shulchan Aruch. No, yeah, he learned from the angel, but many people are going against him, against his halacha, against his derech. I don't know what they were going against, right? So he says, don't worry. He says, right? They're not harming you; they're helping you. Why? All these people that are speaking lashon hara about you, they're giving you all those zuchiyot, and they're taking basically all of your avirot. He says, you should be grateful, you should be so happy as if they're giving you gold and silver every day, because they're cleaning your soul. The Gemara says, Hatov shebirofim legeinam, the best doctor goes to hell. You know who the best doctor is, they say? The one who embarrasses you publicly. Why? He just cleaned out your whole soul. That's what it means. He's the best doctor. Why? Rav Chaim Vital, tonight is his yotor, I believe. Rav Chaim Vital writes in Shara Kedusha, right, that the biggest thing to purify your soul, is when people disrespect you or are disgraceful to you, and you're able to stay quiet and accept it and say it's min hashamayim. David HaMelech wanted to be one of the four avot, Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, and David. Hashem said, "You sure?" He said, "I'm sure I want to do it." He said, "I'm going to test you. Test me." He said, "I'm going to test you with women. Test me." Right? And he failed. Right? It's a different topic in of itself. But it says, you know when he was zochet to be one of the forefathers? At the time when Shimi ben Gera came to him, and he started cursing, he was one of the people in Sanhedrin, was a big person, started cursing him, throwing rocks at him. David HaMelech's soldier took out a sword, said, "I'm going to kill him." David HaMelech said, "Leave him alone. You think it's him? Hashem is telling him to curse me. It's all min hashamayim. This is not him. I look at him and I see this is Hashem Shliach telling him to curse me." At that moment, when he came to such a clear recognition that everybody in his life around him is just a messenger from Hashem, that strong recognition, at that point he was zochen to be one of the chariots of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That recognition that all people are speaking about you, it's good for you. They're giving you gold and silver. Let them take all your avirot. But that should also be a lesson for us. We shouldn't be speaking about anybody else. Every time you speak about somebody else, you should think twice. You really want his sins? You don't know what he did in life. Tomorrow something's going to happen to you. You're going to think, what's happening in life?
Even if it's non-Jew.
No, not a non-Jew. Right? What's happening in life? Right? What's happening in life? You never know. I don't want to continue. I guess we'll stop here. Shabbat shalom. You want to stop this?